Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium eSports coverage of the sixth round of Season 2 of Monday Night Racing, the Tufco Dirt Derby, live from iRacing's virtual version of Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. James Plank, the voice of Podium eSports, alongside Taylor Burris and our producer Ryan Bauer. And TB, they will say when the Truck Series comes to Knoxville in real life next year that none of these drivers will have ever touched Knoxville before with a truck. But in reality, for those of you who are watching tonight, you will see arguably the closest thing we are going to have to a preview of that race, which will be held in Knoxville, Iowa at this very racetrack, July 9th, 2021. Should be a lot of fun.
It certainly is. Watching during practice here today, a lot of drivers are trying different grooves in order to get the best possible runs. We've seen drivers throw the top side right up against that steel wall. We've seen drivers trying to run the low line up and through the middle. We're going to see trucks every single groove that you can think of, especially trying to get up on that top side of the racetrack and seeing if they're able to just skirt to the outside using that momentum to carry them through and hopefully, for some of them, a chance to win here at the famed hallowed ground of Knoxville.
Take a look at where we are in the world, courtesy of our friends at Google. Knoxville, Iowa, nation's heartland, not terribly far away from Des Moines, but you go down the road and this is about as close to a mecca of dirt car racing and sprint car racing in particular as it gets. Of course, the Knoxville Nationals held here every August, the crown jewel of the World of Outlaws schedule, and the place where you want to make your name. Also home of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame, which you can see just at the very top of your screen over in turn 2. So this is a big place for the dirt folks. It's going to be interesting to see the trucks take to Knoxville for the very first time, as we wish all of you a happy holiday season and remind you of tonight's race details. Slightly different format for this evening. We'll start with 2 heat races, 20 laps apiece. The top 11 from each heat race will advance. We'll have one last chance qualifier of 15 laps, from which the top 5 will advance to give us our full 27 car field for the 50 lap feature that will cap off this evening. At this time, we turn our attention to the United States Army brand for today's performance of our national anthem. A tremendous thank you to the United States Army Band for tonight's national anthem as we wrap up qualifying. Just a few seconds remaining in the qualifying session before we transition over to the grid for our first heat race of the evening. Although I can tell you that Greg Stump has the fastest time at 23.572 across all qualifiers, so he'll be in a good spot for these heat races. But for heat number 1, we start with the grid, which sees Preston Pardis take the pole ahead of the 77 of Parker Kligerman, who won the last time we went truck racing earlier this year in Las Vegas. Last week's winner, Nick Sanchez, will roll off from the 3rd spot. 4th, belong to the 53 of Josh Bilicki. DJ Cummings, one of the Championship 4 drivers from a season ago, starts in the 5th spot. Josh Slate rolls off from 6th. Gary Sexton has been incredibly fast in the practice races. He'll start 7th. Brandon Brown from NASCAR and Richmond Raceway rolls off from 8th. 9th with the 41 of Matthew Stallconnect, and Kobe Moore begins this heat for the 10th spot.
Garrett Smithley will be starting from the 11th position, followed by Ford Martin in 12th position. Seth Eggert will be starting in the 13th position, followed by Steve Affont in 14th. IndyCar driver Ed Carpenter will be starting from the 15th position, followed by Garrett Miller in 16th. 17th will be Greg Stump, and rounding out your 18-car field will be Drew Welker.
So Welker rounds out this group of 18. Remember, top 11 from this heat will go to the feature at Knoxville, Iowa, where we are racing on a half-mile or 0.8 of a kilometer track that has 8 degrees of banking pretty much all the way around. It's not the most banked of dirt tracks, relatively flat, so these drivers are going to be leaning in particular on the right rear wheel a tremendous amount, Taylor, to try and get some traction, especially on corner exit.
It certainly is going to be interesting to see how these drivers are going to maintain that in order to build enough momentum off quarter exit to make sure that they're able to try and stay within that top 11. Some drivers have been doing exceptionally well with that. Drivers to keep an eye on in tonight's heat race and throughout the night are going to be Gary Sexton as well as Chad Reed, and of course Nick Sanchez. Those drivers have been phenomenal with their runs here tonight. Of course, Nick Sanchez, one of the fastest drivers during practice here tonight at Knoxville Raceway. So keep an eye on him. Of course, he also having a win this season. So he's looking forward to seeing if he can continue that streak.
A little bit different colors this week for Nick Sanchez, running the orange and green of the University of Miami Hurricanes, who I guess we'll take the Cheez-It Bowl bid against Oklahoma State to be played in Orlando a little bit later on this month and this wacky college football season. But I think anybody within that program will take the U being relevant again in a way they haven't been too much over the course of the past 20 years. But a little bit of football talk and maybe a wave at Sebastian the Ibis that is hiding somewhere right in front of the rear tires, I think, on the 96 machine. But it is the 90 of Preston Pardis and Parker Kligerman, who also have won races in Monday Night Racing Season 2 up to this point, that lead us to green for this first heat. Again, 20 laps, top 11 to the feature in this first heat of the Dirt Derby as we get set to go with round number 6 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. The first heat race is underway, and Preston Pardis already out in front by a car length or 2 as Sanchez goes over the curve at the bottom of the racetrack trying to clear Kligerman on the inside.
It's going to be a tight side-by-side battle for second down the back straightaway, diving into turn 3. Now, if you go too far below that line right there in the middle of turn 3 and 4, you're going to go over that little hump. That will cause your car to get real loose, as well as more difficulty with trying to drive here at Knoxville. You want to stay just above, trying to run a middle-type groove here to get as much momentum built up. We'll start seeing drivers that work their way up to the top side of the racetrack once we get things rolling here. But right now, Nick Sanchez was able to get around Parker Kligerman for second.
I think the hardest thing, especially going through the corners here at Knoxville, is that curb on the bottom is largely invisible unless you hit it. There's nothing separating that little hump that separates the inside of the corner from the rest of the racing surface. So you really do have to be smart when you judge it and make sure that you nail entry and exit and don't run yourself right over that curve, lest you want to lose a little bit of time, as Sanchez is now gone a little bit higher up the racetrack and Kligerman beginning to give chase on the inside.
He certainly is. A great job for Parker Kligerman as he looks to the inside. Right there, just barely clipping that curb to try to see if he can get to that inside. And Nick Sanchez won't make it work off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. But meanwhile, a little further back in 4th position, Joshua Bilicki just watching and waiting. Of course, he's currently still in that 4th position. Only top 11 advanced to the feature race, so he is pretty much sitting comfortable, doesn't want to rush it, just try to see if he can find the right group for him to help him out when we go to the feature race later tonight.
Josh Slate working to the inside of Gary Sexton to try and grab the 6th spot as Sexton is trying to build up the outside lane, which hasn't seen as much success as it did in the practice races. We talked to a lot of the drivers before today, and they said that they really did like the way the outside line came in, but early on, we're not necessarily seeing that all that much, maybe save for Nick Sanchez, who is hanging on, trying to keep Parker Kligerman at bay, but struggling at this point. 77 is almost clear of the 96.
He certainly is trying to make that car work to the inside as he will complete the pass on Nick Sanchez off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway off now turn number 4. He looks to set his sights on our race leader Preston Pardis. He's going to get right to the inside, just barely clipping that curve. In fact, that wheel goes over the curving just a hair, but continues on his way as they come off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. A little bit of lap traffic right in front of our race leader. That's the 11 of Steve Affont.
Steve Affont riding that top side. I think he's trying to stay out of the way, but Preston Pardis is now being chased pretty extensively by Parker Kligerman, who continues to work his way up through this field. And Kligerman already alongside the 90 machine as we work our way towards the halfway point of this first heat.
He certainly is, as we saw Steve Affont just go right in front of our race leader, but no harm, no foul. We're still going to be under green flag conditions, and 3 cars battling for the win here in heat race number 1. Preston Pardis really trying to work that outside lane now, as we see Kligerman and Nick Sanchez just hugging the inside lane off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Preston Pardis now really working it, as we now have a couple of more cars trying to work that outside groove.
Kligerman and Sanchez working the bottom. Pardis trying to find the cushion at the very top of this racetrack, right along the wall. And he's found a little bit more speed, I think, than he had in some of the last few laps. But it might not be enough to keep Kligerman at bay, who will try and slide up in front of the 90, but just doesn't quite have him clear. Now he does. And so Parker Kligerman to the lead in this first heat as we get halfway this time by.
Halfway, so we'll now see as we keep an eye a little bit further back on that transfer spot, which is held by the 28 of Cody Moore, currently trying to fight off a hard-charging Brandon Brown and Ed Carpenter as they are working their way down the back straightaway. Cody Moore doing the best that he can, holding on that 11th position. He's working that middle to outside groove now, diving in almost the corners off towards the bottom of the racetrack down the back straightaway, and he's trying to catch up with Ford Martin to try and give him a little bit more cushion as we see Brandon Brown take a peek to the inside of Cody Moore.
The interesting thing about this battle around the transfer spot is that it's not necessarily the transfer spot itself that's where the good racing is. It's right in front of the transfer spot with Ford Martin and Matt Salkinen and Cody Moore all just sort of hanging there right on the edge of the cutoff. And Brandon Brown is there and in a great place to take advantage of any one of the mishaps that these 3 in front of him might make. They're racing close enough to where I won't totally rule out that 2 of them may bounce off each other, as Moore and Salkinen just did. And Brown might be able to sneak past 1 or more of these trucks and get a spot in the feature outright.
It certainly is. And talk about Matthew Stalkenek as he makes more contact with Cody Moore. Stalkenek's one of the main points contenders in the championship right now. Actually, one of the highest points leaders who does not have a win this season. So he's currently right there on the bubble spot. If he does not make the show, he will lose points in his fight for the championship this year. So very important for him to try to hold on to this transfer spot as they come off a turn 4. More contact, and he loses it outside in 12th position now.
Well, Cody Moore just gave him the hit check. That's exactly what happened. And Brandon Brown, likewise, was able to get to the inside of the 41 and take away the final transfer spot. So it's Brown and Moore racing for 10th and 11th. They're both in the show as of now, but that, of course, could change in the final 5 or 6 laps.
Thankfully, Stalkenek does have the LCQ if he is not able to make tonight's feature race through the heat races. But still, you don't want to go to the LCQ if at all possible. So he's going to try and see if he can fight his way back up to the back bumper of either Brandon Brown or Cody Moore as they go down the back straightaway heading into turn 3.
Moore up high, Brown down low. Stalkenek maybe about 4 or 5 truck lengths back of this and then some, which is a much more significant gap on dirt than it would be on pavement. You've got a lot more ground you've got to make up, even though these cars are maybe a little bit tighter in distance, just with the nature of dirt racing. You get a gap that big and could end up being a very, very big hill to climb, especially if your car ends up sideways on corner exit like it was for the 41 last time by out of 4.
Yeah, these cars are starting to get a little bit more sideways off corner exit as he's now under pressure from Ed Carpenter in that number 27 as he looks to the inside of Matt Stalkenek. You got to try to use that wheel a little bit more. Be careful with your input on the steering, trying to see about letting it drift a little bit as best that you can, not sawing at the wheel too much. Otherwise, you will lose that truck around very easily as they come off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Carpenter still trying to put that pressure on Stalkenek to gain that extra position.
might not matter though at the end because Brandon Brown's still clear by about 4 or 5 car lengths as Parker Kligerman is working his way around to take the white flag as the leader of this heat. Nick Sanchez and Preston Portis in pretty good shape. Josh Bilicki right there on the edge of the 90, but it's Kligerman who will lead them to the white flag.
Parker Kligerman picking up where he left off last time he was here, competing on Monday Night Racing and in a truck, leading the field once again as they come off of turn number 4 for the final time. Or actually turn 2 for the final time, heading over to you, James.
Off into 3, off into 4, nothing crazy for Parker Kligerman or for Nick Sanchez, who will finish this heat in first and second. The battle for the transfer spot is where we'll watch as Brandon Brown is still a solid 7-8 truck lengths ahead of Ed Carpenter and Matthew Stalkenek, who bounce off each other out of turn 4, but it won't matter because both of them are headed to the LCQ as the 12th and 13th place cars in this race. Brandon Brown gets the final spot in the feature directly for Richmond Raceway eSports, and the 12 machine will start in 21st or 22nd as we get set for the second heat race, which sees a new name to Monday Night Racing, but a familiar name to the NASCAR world, and one especially familiar to Podium eSports for the organizers for the Replacements 100 from Atlanta Motor Speedway back in March. TJ Majors is on pole for Heat 2 ahead of Gabe Wood. Stephen Wilson from the open wheel world will start in 3rd. Kyle Busch in the 51 will start 4th. 5th belongs to the 65 of Will Rogers. 6th on the grid for this heat will be the 33 of Anthony Alfredo. Max Kennan will start tonight's second heat round from 7th. 8th on the grid will be Devin Henry. Kyle McFadden and Roger Debold complete the top 10.
Starting in 11th, another IndyCar driver, Connor Daly, is going to be starting in there, followed by motocross champion Chad Reed in 12th. Nick DeGroot will be starting in the 13th position, followed by NHRA champion Ron Capps in 14th. 15th will go to Stephen Ellis, followed by Mark Rabiles in 16th, with Paul Sutton 17th. Jesse Vaughn rounds out your 18-car field.
I get a reminder. Half mile, 0.8 of a kilometer around Knoxville Raceway, and 8 degrees of banking to work with in the corners for these drivers. We didn't really see the outside come into play all that much. There was some movement in the middle of the racetrack, Taylor, but for the most part, it seemed like the inside was the place to be, at least in that first heat.
It certainly shows that to be the case right now. We'll have to keep track and see if we'll see that outer groove come into play the further we get into a longer run when we get to the feature race later tonight. Right now, the usage on the track is very slight, so it's about 24%. So we'll start to see that build up as the race progresses here tonight.
TJ Majors will lead the field out of 2 and past the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, which is on the property here in Knoxville, and then off into 3 and 4 with all kinds of Armco stacked up along the walls. We know how wild the sprint cars can be when they wreck, so a good thing that we've got all sorts of Armco in the corners. But these trucks will take off heat number 2 of this Dirt Derby and Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring underway. Majors, Wood, Wilson immediately to the bottom. Here comes Anthony Alfredo following Kyle Busch up high down the backstretch.
Kyle Busch is already going to be around Anthony Alfredo. Now he'll go to the top side, getting around Stephen Wilson. He's going to try to take the away second position from Gabe Wood off turn number 2 right there, but can't make it work. He's going to slot back to side by side with Anthony Alfredo as he hits the Armco barrier down the back straightaway as they work their way through turns 3 and 4.
So it's Kyle Busch working that high side and Gabe Wood up there as well. Those two are about the only two that are properly committed to it. Everybody else is down on the inside lane, and it's working well for Majors. It's working well for Stephen Wilson. It's working well for Anthony Alfredo, but Wood and Busch beginning to slide back as they continue on in this heat nearly a quarter of the way through.
Ooh, a little bit of contact between Kennan as well as Kyle Busch for the battle for 6th position as they work their way through turns 3 and 4. Kyle Busch now going right up to almost the cushion off of turn number 2 right there, but still not able to make it work as he makes more contact with Max Kennan.
Kyle Busch falling through this field. He started in 4th in this heat. He's back to 7th and in danger of going to 8th until he gets a nice move there. Gabe Wood got loose and a little bit wild over the back straightaway as Busch was able to clear the 50 machine, who then is going to get turned by Devin Henry over in turn 4. No yellow flag. We'll say green flag racing, and if we go green the rest of the way, that means Gabe Wood is absolutely going to have his work cut out for him in the LCQ.
tough break for the number 50 of Cave Wood. He was having a great run here, especially during qualifying, but now he is going to struggle and has to fight his way through the last chance qualifier. Meanwhile, we're still keeping an eye on this gaggle of cars here for 4th, 5th, and 6th between Will Rogers, Kyle Busch, and Max Kinn as they battle it through turns 3 and 4. Kyle Busch finally getting to the inside lane to try to work his way around the 65 of Will Rogers.
I don't necessarily blame Kyle for trying to find some speed around the cushion. It's a theory that usually works pretty well in sprint car racing, but tonight it just hasn't been there. The inside's where you want to be, and I think especially with these trucks, the radius gets so much bigger the further out you go. It's a much more drastic difference in speed than you'd see with a sprint car where you have the opportunity to make it work. But yes, Max Kinn bouncing off of Kyle McFadden over in the corner as some of these drivers actually finally decide to try and use the outside to make something happen.
It certainly is. There's a couple of drivers trying to make it work as we see Kyle McFadden and Max Kinn go up to the top of the racetrack, following Roger Diebold right behind him in 8th position as they try to work that middle to high group to try to gain some momentum and see if they can catch up to Will Rogers. Meanwhile, holding on in 11th position is Nick DeGroot in that number 89 Chevrolet as they work their way off of turn number 2. He's trying to hold off Devin Henry, but yet still trying to see if he can catch up to the 34 of Ron Capps or the 20 of Connor Daly as they come off of turn number 4.
The Season 1 champion of Monday Night Racing holds the final transfer spot in a combo that I think he would be willing to admit might not necessarily be his first choice when it comes to Monday Night Racing combos of car, or in this case truck and track. Devin Henry and Chad Reed are there, and within maybe a car length or two between that trio, I think you'll have a pretty good battle, maybe called a quartet, quintet, if you throw in Ron Capps and Connor Daly, who are just ahead of this group. As is Roger Diebold, there really isn't much separation until you get to about the top 6 with Kyle McFadden. So everybody, I'd say, from 7th on back could still race their way
turn 3.
out.
Will Rogers and as well as Kyle McFadden get together in the middle of turns 3 and 4. That's going to drop Will Rogers to 13th, and he is still continuing to drop after that contact that he had with the 53 of Kyle McFadden.
They've been bouncing off each other for about the last 2 or 3 laps, so no surprise that one of them eventually gets booted out of the transfer spot. As you'll take a look on your screens and see what happened. We are just past halfway in this first seat. It looked like Rogers just trying to pitch it in and lost control of his 55. Created some damage on the right side of McFadden's truck, who carried on. He's still running at the top 5, incidentally, as Rogers is now back to 14th, 3 spots outside of the transfer place that Devin Henry currently holds.
Devin Henry now trying to hold on to that 11th spot. He's under pressure from Chad Reed right now, who's right behind him. I would say about a 10th separate the two drivers as they work their way through turns 3 and 4, and we see he'll go to right behind him as keeps his eye, as we see Devin Henry trying to get around Nick DeGroot to give him a little bit more cushion to try and see if he doesn't have to be on that bubble spot.
Henry working it down to the bottom. DeGroot running that middle, almost middle high line. He's not quite on the cushion, but he's getting enough momentum on corner exit to keep Henry at bay, which is the most important thing, at least so long as Chad Reed doesn't catch up to both of them as they race each other, which is certainly not out of the cards yet either. 5 laps to go, coming momentarily for TJ Majors.
Take a look at NHRA champion Ron Capps. He's currently sitting in 7th. Of course, we know him to be on the iRacing service for quite some time, racing a wide variety of different things, but him out here in the truck, slinging it here in Knoxville, he definitely knows a thing or two to get around these dirt tracks as he tries to get to the inside of the 21 Max Kinn, but gets on the curb. He has to loosen it up, continue on his way, but he might lose another position from Nick DeGroot for 8th, but he's able to hold on.
I saw that wheel saw to the left, to the right, and just about all over the place as Capps had to hang on tough to make sure he didn't lose control of it. And all of a sudden, how about Nick DeGroot, who's charged up into P7 just ahead of Capps and ahead of Roger Diebold. And it's Connor Daly that now has the last transfer spot ahead of Chad Reed.
Chad Reed trying to see if he can catch up to Connor Daly. Remember, we were talking about him. He was one of the faster cars in practice as he'll go to the top side of the racetrack to see if he can pull it off. He can't get the momentum he needs in order to catch up to Connor Daly as they go down the back straightaway, heading into turn 3 and 4. Now he'll dive to the bottom of the racetrack. He can't get close enough to make it work for him as he'll stick to the inside off of turn number 4.
Almost wonder if you have to go down to the bottom or hope that there's a mistake made, which is exactly what Connor Daly just did. He smacked the fence on the entry to turn 3, and Chad Reed is now right there alongside the 20 truck to try and get the final transfer spot.
He's definitely able to now make up that opportunity that we saw the mistake from Connor Daly. Does he have enough time, though? He tries to work the inside line off turn 2. Down the back straightaway, Connor Daly able to hold on this time around as they continue to turn 3 and 4.
Connor Daly there at 11th. Chad Reed's going to have a few more opportunities to try and make the pass as TJ Majors works his way down the back straightaway. A lap and a half to go for the heat leader, but all eyes on Daly and Reed. And don't forget Roger Diebold and Devin Henry, who are right there in front of these two and could be on their way into the LCQ if something happens.
Certainly is. It's not over yet for these drivers as the white flag is out. Here comes Chad Reed. He cannot make enough room to gain the momentum he needs. He is dropped back to about a second almost to these drivers in front of them as they work their way out of turn number 2. As they work their way, I think it's going to be safe to say Chad Reed will not be able to make it into the finals this time.
TJ Majors gets the victory in heat number 2. One last shot for Chad Reed to try and get that final transfer spot from Roger Diebold, but it won't be enough. So the 22 into the LCQ as Diebold finishes 11th, and in the last transfer spot, he too will start in the 20s in the feature race. And we will turn our attention in short order to our LCQ grid. Ed Carpenter will start up front in this last chance qualifier ahead of Chad Reed. Matt Stolkenecht and Stephen Ellis will start 3rd and 4th. 5th on the grid will be the 78 of Greg Stump from Off Axis Paint. Will Rogers, the Space Station Gaming Driver, begins tonight from 6th. 7th in this race will be Garrett Miller in the 36 machine. Gabe Wood in the 50, who had speed in his first heat, then got punted back and out and into this LCQ. He rolls off 8th. 9th will be the 45 of Seth Eckert. Mark Grabillash rolls off from 10th. Drew Welker, Paul Sutton, Steve Buffon, and Jesse Vaughn complete the field for this LCQ, which will be slightly longer than what we saw with everything in the heat, and slightly shorter in patience and in length. 50 laps of this LCQ. Top 5 will transfer, so it is Greg Stump who will begin this race on the bubble. While we have a moment, we'll remind you of a few events coming up in the world of iRacing. It's close to the end of the year, but a relatively busy week, and it continues tomorrow. Special on-air time for the Pro Series finale from Homestead Miami Speedway, because at 8:45 we're going to spend 15 minutes telling you everything you need to know about the 2021 Podium 500 to be held February 7th at iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. Over the past 2 seasons, over 175 drivers have competed in Friday night's time trials and Saturday's qualifying day to make the 43-car field for the 200-lap, 500-mile show that has paid $1,000 to win and provided a rig to the champion in each of its first 2 seasons. In the third, we can't say everything yet, but we'll have a little bit more information for you all tomorrow night, 8:45, before our broadcast of the Pro Series finale from Homestead. We'll find out which drivers are headed to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series for 2021 before the Grid Ultimate Driver Challenge will go to Dover to round out its 2020 campaign next Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We are off here at Monday Night Racing until 2021. After tonight, we'll be back on air January 4th from Watkins Glen International with the Podium trucks. We'll go dirt truck racing on a road course. Wouldn't necessarily think it, but plenty of entertainment will be had in 2 weeks' time. We'll bring you all the action here on Podium eSports when we get to that point. But Ed Carpenter off and away in the very mean Cougar-esque machine as we get rolling in this LCQ. Chad Reed there to the outside of Stolkenecht, who immediately goes to the bottom to try and get second.
He certainly is, as we see Stolkenecht finally gets second away from Chad Reed as they work their way into turns 3 and 4. Chad Reed actually scraped the wall on the start of the race here. He's got a little bit of damage to his Chevrolet truck as they work their way off of turn number 4 to complete lap 1. Currently right now it is Gabe Wood who charged his way up from 8th to the transfer spot in 5th as Ed Carpenter has some issues.
And Carpenter rolling around on the curve, tried to save it, got sideways and looped around and eventually loses it right in front of the field and careened, I believe, into Garrett Miller. But the yellow flag out as Carpenter got sideways. He hit the curb, got himself in trouble, and it was Greg Stump that he clipped as well as Garrett Miller. You'll see it on the replay, but Ed just trying to carry tons of momentum through the corner, and he clipped that inside curve that's so tricky to see and got himself turned around trying to correct his truck after he exited turn 2.
He certainly was trying, and it looks like that he runs up to the top of the racetrack, and then that's when he starts to go down to the bottom of the racetrack, then clips the curving. Can't really get control of his number 27 Chevrolet truck as he works his way off the corner, and then boom, there's the contact with a couple of trucks right there, but had a little bit of damage to the nose, but I think he'd be able to come down, get a quick fast repair, and get back out onto the track to continue on his way.
Nose damage as well for the number 27 machine. Now these drivers do have the opportunity to come down pit road to fix damage, but this being a dirt race, not really any need for fuel or tires. You don't really wear either of them out all that much, and there's not too much fuel to deal with in these dirt races. Just get the chance to fill up in between heats in the feature race. So we'll see if Carpenter decides to come down pit road for service. Otherwise, it's Matthew Stallconnect who will lead the field to green when we go back racing. We'll take a moment to remind you all that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring, an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. They listen to your needs and requirements and develop custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at tufcoflooring.com. 5 laps on the board in this last chance qualifier, and it is Stallconnect, Ellis, Reed, Wood, and Greg Stump that pulled the final 5 transfer spots into tonight's 27-car 50-lap feature, as Stallconnect will wait for his turn to lead the field to green, and everyone else will go on his command. All restarts tonight on the leader, so it's all about the 41 as we go back to green flag racing. Off goes Stallconnect, and big trouble up at the front. Looks like Chad Reed almost got turned around by Gabe Wood, but they both maintain their transfer spots, at least for the moment.
They at least so, but Gabe Wood is under heavy pressure from the 45 of Seth Eggert, but is able to use the outside lane for his momentum in order to hold on to 5th position. Meanwhile, we see the 78 of Greg Stump move up to 4th position as they come off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway right now. Stallconnect holding strong with the race lead.
Stallconnect in good shape. It's Gabe Wood fighting Stump on the outside, and Seth Eggert trying to charge for that final transfer spot. The kick in the tires machine right there with Steve Lafont from Behind the Wall Media, as those two just about got into each other going into 3, as Eggert and Lafont trying to ride the bottom to go catch up to the 50 machine.
They are trying to work that bottom, but it's not really working out too well for them right now. They are still falling back just a little bit from Gabe Wood as they make contact off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. They will go, but Steve Lafont will be able to move up to 6th position and make up some ground on the 78 of Greg Stump.
Stump continuing to hold that final transfer spot. Lafont has cleared Eggert and started a gap of 45. Will Rogers now trying to work over Eggert's kicking the tires forward F-150s. Stallconnect is in great control of this, and Chad Reed and Stephen Ellis having a decent fight for the 3rd spot.
Certainly is a great battle for 3rd position. Gabe Wood trying to see if he can get to the inside of Stephen Ellis, but can't quite make it work. Gets a good run, though, off of turn number 4 right here as we are approaching less than, or just about 5 laps to go the next time by. We see Gabe Wood go to the inside finally of Stephen Ellis. He just had the nose just out in front of him down the back straightaway as they dive it into turn 3. Will Gabe Wood be able to clear Ellis off of turn number 4? The answer will be yes, and he might also clear off Chad Reed as they come out of turn 4.
Gabe Wood showing the speed that made him so quick in the heat race, and even though he's had a wild start to tonight's proceedings, no doubt that that 50 truck has some pace in it, and he has driven his way up into the 2nd spot as Stephen Ellis looks to the inside of Chad Reed. The question now is whether or not Wood has enough time to run down Stallconnect to win the LCQ in these final 5 laps.
Going to be a question we'll have to find out as the laps continue to wind down. Meanwhile, for the transfer spot in 5th position, Steve Affont has caught and passed Greg Stump, but here comes Will Rogers, 3 wide for the 5th position as they come off of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway they will go. Will Rogers now has the transfer spot as they dive into 3.
So Rogers has got the spot. Stump and Eggert on the outside looking in, as is Affont, who already is dropping back maybe a truck length, maybe 2 behind the 65 machine, who has found some speed very late in the going when he needed it most.
He certainly has found that speed that he needed, and as they come off of turn number 4 here, or not turn number 2, closing in on about 2 laps to go next time by as they work their way off of turn number 4. We see Will Rogers hugging that inside line, just barely clipping the curving as Steve Affont's trying to find that extra grip needed to give him the momentum.
Meanwhile, Gabe Wood is driven around Matt Stalkenek for the lead in this LCQ, but all eyes on Rogers and Affont to see who gets the final spot in the feature, as Wood will come around 3 and 4 to take the white flag.
One more time for Gabe Wood to take it on and move to the feature race. But meanwhile, back in 5th for that transfer spot, Will Rogers has pulled some ground between him and Steve Affont as they go through turns 1 and 2 for the final time.
All about the 50 machine in this last chance qualifiers. Gabe Wood has atoned for mistakes and mishaps in the heat race, and he will come out of turn 4 to win the last chance qualifier. Steve Affont with one more final big send to try and get into the feature race, but it's Will Rogers who will finish in the 5th spot in this LCQ and be the 27th and final starter in tonight's feature race at this Dirt Derby and Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco, Florida.
What a great race here that we just saw here tonight for this last chance qualifier, especially for that 5th spot. Will Rogers was just outside the top 7 and was able to fight his way around his competitors to get in transfer to the feature race. A great opportunity for him to see what he can do as we now get ready for the 50-lap feature.
So the top 10 of that last chance qualifier on your screens as these drivers will get set for the feature race, which will see Parker Kligerman roll off from P1 ahead of TJ Majors. Those 2 your heat winners. Nick Sanchez and Stephen Wilson begin tonight from 3rd and 4th. Preston Pardis and Anthony Alfredo will start in the 3rd row. Josh Balicki begins tonight from 7th alongside Kyle Busch. Gary Sexton and Kyle McFadden complete the top 10 for our feature grid.
Starting in 11th will be DJ Cummings, followed by Max Cannon in the 12th position. NASCAR driver Garrett Smithley will be starting in the 13th position, followed by Nick DeGroot in 14th. Owner of Monday Night Racing, Ford Martin, will be starting from the 15th position, followed by NHRA champion Ron Capps in 16th. Joshua Slate will be starting from the 17th position, followed by Devin Henry, 18th. 19th will be Jacoby Moore, and rounding out your top 20, IndyCar driver Connor Daly.
21st in the grid will be Brandon Brown, Roger Diebold, 22nd. Those 2 the last to qualify in our heat races. Your 5 last chance qualifiers: Gabe Wood, Matt Stalkenek, Stephen Ellis, Chad Reed, and Will Rogers. They complete the 27-car grid here at Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. This half-mile, 0.8 of a kilometer oval that opened in 1954. 8 degrees of bankings in the corners. Tonight we go for 50 laps in our feature race, 25 miles, 40 kilometers in sim. It is the default day for iRacing, May 15th, 2020, currently right around 8:30 p.m. local time in Knoxville. Temps are a very balmy 77 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 70 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, so not excessively hot. Winds to the north at 2 miles an hour, 58% humidity. Final thoughts before we go green in this feature race in this Dirt Derby. Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. Taylor Burris.
Well, if we saw anything like what we saw in the previous 2 heat races, Parker Kligerman, TJ Majors, Nick Sanchez, those are probably going to be the big 3 battling it out here for the win here at Knoxville. But keep an eye on Stephen Wilson. The IndyCar driver knows a thing or 2 about getting around here in Knoxville. And who can forget Kyle Busch starting at 8th? He's always going to put on a show for us here tonight.
Green flag is out. Dirt Derby is underway as cars begin to fade out immediately as they hit turn 1 for the first time. But Kligerman and Majors lead this field down the backstretch as Nick Sanchez will try and fight Stephen Wilson on the inside.
Stephen Wilson going to be one of the first cars running that top side of the racetrack, followed by Anthony Alfredo and Kyle Busch. The rest of the field running towards that inside lane off of turn number 4 as they complete lap 1 for the first time here tonight. And it's going to be Parker Kligerman, your race leader.
Kligerman ahead of Majors, ahead of Sanchez, ahead of Wilson. Those four already single file. First battle that's door to door in fender to fenders. Preston Pardus and Anthony Alfredo racing for the 5th and 6th positions.
Indeed, as we're almost going to go 4 wide, rack behind them a little bit between Josh Bilicki, Kyle Busch, Gary Sexton, and Kyle McFadden, as they are now able to sort themselves out for the top 10 as they come through the middle of turns 1 and 2. Once again, McFadden going to get to the inside of Kyle Busch as the battle for 10th rages on.
Battle of the Kyles for 9th and 10th. It's McFadden to the inside, Busch to the outside as you look at the whole field coming around the corner. But big move there from the S3 of Kyle McFadden to clear the 51 of Kyle Busch and the 53 of Josh Bilicki and take over the 8th position.
Up a 2-for-1 for Kyle McFadden as he was able to now move into 8th. Let's see if he can make up some ground on Gary Sexton right now. Currently the fastest driver out on the track, none other than Parker Kligerman, picking up like we brought out where he left off in the truck like he did at Las Vegas, but this time taking it to a little bit of a smaller track. And, of course, a little bit more dirtier as they work their way out of turn number 2. TJ Majors trying to put that pressure on Parker Kligerman as they work their way through turns 3 and 4. Majors gets right on that bumper of Parker Kligerman. He was not clear to get around him this time around as they work their way. Here comes Sanchez for second.
Majors had to check up. He made sure to not run to the back of Kligerman, and instead he opened up the inside to Sanchez, who may well take over the second spot if Majors isn't careful. Meanwhile, Stephen Wilson to the outside of the 96 to try and get the 3rd spot away.
It certainly is. Look at Wilson running that outside group compared to the rest of the field, just sticking to the bottom of the racetrack as they come off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway. Stephen Wilson gets a great run on Preston Pardus. Can't quite seem to get around Nick Sanchez. He's currently blocked in behind him as they work the outside group through turn number 2. Will we see Wilson clear him? He will. He will hold on to that 4th position.
There are a tremendous amount of drivers in this field who are already pushing that inside curb, and we've seen a few of them just about get themselves into trouble. That was part of the issue with TJ Majors a few laps ago. He had run up on that inside curb and had to drop down to the proper racing room to settle his truck back out. And when he did, he was almost sworn by Sanchez and Pardus and Wilson and company. But everybody largely okay in the front 5 or 6. The best battles here, maybe go back to about 14th, 15th. You've got Nick DeGroot, Will Rogers, Ron Capps, Devin Henry, Ford Martin, and Gabe Wood, who is continuing his charge through this field. And for Wood, I don't know if there's a passing points trophy to be awarded tonight, but the 50 machine looks very much on track to get that. Started in 23rd, already up to 19th.
He certainly is a man on the mission here tonight as he's trying to get around Ford Martin for that 18th spot. He might try to also get around Devin Henry as well, but as they work their way out of turn number 4 down the front straightaway, he loses that momentum that he just had, and it's going to have to slip in that 19th position. Now he gets a good run through turns 1, and he gets that middle group, dives it into the bottom of that curbing, try not to hit it as they come off of turn 2 down the back straightaway, still side by side with Ford Martin.
So low entry, middle high, apex, low exit for Gabe Wood. That's where the speed has come from off the 50 machine, and he just about was able to clear Ford Martin in the 07 that last time by. He may well just with a good entry into turns 1 and 2, and Martin will try and counter by crossing over the 50 and getting to the inside, but a very nice run for Gabe Wood there on the outside to take the spot. He can keep the truck wound up. He may well lock down 18th.
One of the first slide jumps we see as Will Rogers goes around. He will lose control of his race car. More trouble for Ron Capps as well as Devin Henry. So both Ford Martin and Gabe Wood were able to get through there cleanly and continue on their way to move Wood and Martin up to 15th and 16th.
To say Gabe Wood already almost up 10 spots in the opening 12 laps of this race. A very impressive run for the 50 truck, who has had some of the fastest laps in this race. He's only a 10th off of your leaders, Parker Kligerman and TJ Majors.
Yeah, right now, Nick Sanchez is the fastest car out there on the circuit as Parker Kligerman hits the curving a little bit. That's going to allow TJ Majors to get to the inside of him. Now, Majors will hit the curving. Off of turn number 4, they'll go side by side into turn 1, and it's still going to be a battle for the race lead. Majors makes slight contact with Kligerman. They'll still hold on side by side off at turn number 2. Nick Sanchez watches on as they go down the back straightaway.
Sanchez is just waiting to see who's going to win this battle so he can figure out who to follow as Kligerman rides high. Majors goes down low, and TJ Majors will lead at the stripe. He's not quite clear of the 77 Valvoline Toyota Tundra, but the door number clear, Ford F-150, carrying the number 22 that is so commonly associated with Majors off of his Cup Series spotting exploits. May almost was going to go to the front, and then he caught the curb on the inside, so here comes Nick Sanchez to the outside to try and get Kligerman's lead.
Nick Sanchez will clear TJ Majors off of turn number 4, move him up to P2. Now, can TJ Majors try and respond to get around both these two competitors off of turn number 2? They will go slight contact almost half between our two race leaders as Sanchez working that outside groove.
He smacked the fence on the entry to 3, but it didn't slow him down too much, did Nick Sanchez, as he's able to pinch Kligerman on corner exit, and you can move the 96 back up to the front of this field just like he was 1 week ago in the street stocks at the 2008 version of Phoenix International Raceway. Everybody in the top 10 behind Nick Sanchez has already started to move up the racetrack, so maybe with a longer race, Taylor, we might see the rubber start to come in up top. We may see a proper cushion develop before the end.
We certainly will. Notice if you can look on the track right now, you see that little bit of a darker groove on the dirt here through the front straightaway as well as through the corners. Now you see that little bit of a tan, lighter spot. That's where some of the grip is. That's where these drivers need to try to go in order to get the runs that they need off corner exit. So it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers can do as they work their way off of turn number 2.
And there's flexibility in these lanes, too. I think that's the most important thing, is Kligerman tried to slide job Preston Pardis, but you've got about maybe 2 lanes worth of width starting on the inside of the racetrack and coming up to the middle, and that's quickly becoming 3 lanes as these drivers spread out even further and establish a line on the outside. So there are plenty of different places that you can run at Knoxville in this dirt derby to try and find speed, and Sanchez has responded in kind to Kligerman's move up top by running that lane right along the wall as well.
It certainly is, and some people are thinking you don't want to run up against that wall. Well, actually, with these trucks, if you just slightly tap that Armco barrier, that actually can help turn your race truck through the corner a little bit better to get the momentum you need. We've seen that a couple of times here tonight already, but right now, everybody's going to get right up against that wall off corner exit as they come out of turn number 4. Parker Kligerman almost just barely scraped it as we see TJ Majors tap the wall off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway as we see Anthony Alfredo back to the bottom of the racetrack to get around TJ Majors.
Emphasis on the slightly. I think that's the biggest thing, because if you smack that wall heavily on the outside more than a few times, it will actually break the right front suspension and you will put yourself in trouble. We saw that with Kyle Larson some years ago at Eldora Speedway in the feature race for the trucks back in the day. As Sanchez continues to lead ahead of Parker Kligerman, Preston Pardis is up to 3rd, TJ Majors back to 4th, but a really good battle between Anthony Alfredo, Stephen Wilson, Gary Sexton, Kyle McFadden, 5th through 8th.
Certainly is a great battle these drivers are having, beaten and banking as Gary Sexton pulls the slide job on Kyle McFadden off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway. Now Kyle McFadden's going to try the crossover move. Will he respond with a slide job through turns 1 and 2? Kent did it right there as the caution is out for the first time.
Caution flag is out, hearing that Max Kenney was in trouble. The 28 machine also around on the front straightaway. Well, both 28s rather. You've got Ron Capps and Kobe Moore, who were sideways down the front straightaway here, and we'll see what happened between Moore and Ron Capps, but plenty of action to talk about, plenty of action to keep an eye on, and it was the 28 of Capps that got turned by the 21 of Max Kidden, who then turned down into the 28 of Kobe Moore, who was an innocent bystander in that whole incident. But regardless, 3 trucks sideways, and it gives us a almost natural halfway break. These drivers were approaching lap 25 of 50, so we'll get a yellow flag to split this race in 2 effectively and give us a first half and a second half of action in this feature race for these trucks at Knoxville.
Certainly was a great first half of tonight's race here so far. I mean, we just saw a lot of great battling, a lot of 3-wide action, especially up towards the front of the field, and then some movers here through the field. Gabriel Wood has now officially gained 10 spots since the drop of the green flag. So 25 laps, 10 spots, not a bad run for that number 50 Chevrolet. Let's see if he can increase that in the next 25.
As we are under the yellow flag, we'll take a moment to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Nick Sanchez, your race leader, ahead of Parker Kligerman. Preston Pardis rolls on from the 3rd spot. 4th is TJ Majors. 5th is the 25 is Stephen Wilson. Anthony Alfredo rides 6th. 7th is Kyle McFadden behind Gary Sexton. Kyle Busch in 9th and 10th. The 53 of Josh Bilicki.
Nick DeGroot sits in 11th, followed by DJ Cummings in 12th position. Gabriel Wood sits 13th, followed by Ford Martin in the 14th position. Max Kinnon will sit in 15th, followed by Garrett Smithley in 16th. Devin Henry is in 17th, followed by Brandon Brown in 18th. Will Rogers sits in the 19th position with Connor Daly rounding out your top 20.
21st is Stephen Ellis, Josh Slate 22nd, 23rd Ron Capps, Matthew Stalknecht 24th, 25th Kobe Moore, Roger Diebold, Chad Reed. Your final 2 cars in this field, as it looks like we had a delayed green flag, perhaps, as the race truck will come back out. But that concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. And with over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. We'll take a moment to go side by side and take a break so you all won't miss any of the action, but we'll be right back in just a moment from this Dirt Derby at Knoxville Raceway for Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring here on Podium eSports.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
Back live at iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa for the second half of tonight's feature race, round number 6 of season 2 of Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring. James Pike and Taylor Barris here on the call, with Brian Bauer producing all of the pictures and graphics that you see as we are back underway at Under Green in the nation's heartland. And Nick Sanchez immediately goes to the top side to try and take advantage of that second groove that is coming nicely as he bounces off of Preston Pardis and tried to pinch the 90, but just about turned himself around as those two pig off each other for the race lead.
Preston Pardis pulls the slide job, but does not make it work as they come off of turn number 2. Nick Sanchez will try the crossover, pull another slide job in front of Preston Pardis. Now back through turns 3 and 4. Pardis to the inside, Sanchez to the outside. Kligerman watches on as the battle for 5th position rages on as well. Off of turn 4, Sanchez finally holds on to the race lead.
Big battle between TJ Majors and Gary Sexton for that 5th spot. You've got some big names in there too. Anthony Alfredo is in the mix, as is Stephen Wilson, as is the 51 of Kyle Busch. As Alfredo bounces off the fence, I think he might have made contact with Wilson, and those two are going to bounce off the fence over in turn 2 one more time, as Sexton will clear all of this and Kyle Busch will take advantage of the mishap between Wilson and Alfredo to go to 6th.
Kyle Busch says, thank you very much. I will gladly take that 6th position as they work their way off of turn number 4. Stephen Wilson, though, fighting on the outside. Will he be able to get a good run? The answer will be yes. He'll be side by side. Now Kyle Busch pulls the slide job in front of Stephen Wilson off of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway as we still see the battle for 5th rages on.
Really good stuff for the 5th position. Majors and Sexton continuing to fight it out as Parker Kligerman grows ever closer to the 90 truck of Preston Pardis. Nick Sanchez has actually opened up a bit of a lead here to the tune of about maybe 2 or 3 truck lengths as Kligerman continues to stalk that number 90 machine. And Majors tried to pull the slides off on Sexton, who responded in kind by coming immediately down to the bottom. Just not enough momentum for the 13 to make it stick.
Not enough momentum at all as he tries to make it stick through turns 3 and 4. Now Gary Sexton to the inside of the racetrack, side by side with TJ Majors. Now slot back in as they go through turns 1 and 2. Currently, that time around, it is going to be Nick Sanchez, the fastest car out on the track.
Sanchez, Pardis, Kligerman, Majors, Sexton, your top 5, and Kyle Busch hanging out there in 6th. It's a mad scramble a little bit further back. Once you get to about maybe 13th, 14th, they are all over the place. And oh, by the way, speaking of drivers who have come from back there, Gabe Wood, who we talked about earlier, currently sitting in the 9th position, just behind Anthony Alfredo. No one has gained more positions in this race than the number 50 truck.
Now, Gabriel Wood has started from the front, then to the back, now to the front again, now to the back again. He has been everywhere on this racetrack here tonight as TJ Majors hits the wall off of turn number 4. Tough break as he is under immense pressure from Gary Sexton.
Sexton just keeping the pins clamped down on the 22 truck and forcing him to step it up each and every lap. I wonder if Sexton may well be forcing the 22 into a few mistakes. Certainly wouldn't rule it out of the question. And Sexton was one of the drivers pointed out, but big incident over in turns 1 and 2. Kobe Moore is around again. Looks like DJ Cummings involved in trouble as well, as is, I believe, Josh Slate, maybe Devin Henry, but a few trucks over in 1 and 2, bringing out the yellow once again on lap 36.
Bunch of trucks jockeying for position here tonight, and of course that ended up spending the 10 of DJ Cummings around, who then collects the 28 of Kobe Moore. So a big issue here tonight as some of those trucks were almost going 4 wide into the corner.
It was an absolute madhouse at the back of this field. For as much as we saw at the front, they were about 3 and 4 wide back there for the last 5 laps or so. As you see, heavy impact there for DJ Cummings. Nowhere that Ron Capps could have gone to avoid that incident. A tough break for the 10 machine, one of our championship 4 contenders from a season ago.
Yep, there's you see on board with the 21 of Max Ken, who makes the contact with the 10 of DJ Cummings, who then sends him flying up into the Armco barrier and then, of course, head on into the rest of the field. So a tough break as we're on board with Connor Daly. You see what he has to go through to avoid the mayhem here at Knoxville. As you see, just right in front of me, actually goes over the number 20 of Connor Daly to continue on his way.
Well, he's going over. He does have U.S. Air Force on his truck, and I guess that counts as a form of aiming high, yes?
A little bit. I think we need to go a little bit higher, though, before they can join the Podium eSports space program.
I was about to say, Space Administration has a literal higher bar to clear, I think. But
much higher.
While we're into the yellow flag, we'll remind you of some of the events coming up in the world of Podium eSports over the course of the next week, and it continues tomorrow night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, a special 15-minute pre-race show with all the details you need to know about the 2021 Podium 500 at Daytona International Speedway, February 7th, 2021, the date for your calendars to mark on that before the finale for the Pro Series. Coming up, we're going to find out which drivers head into the Coke Series for 21 tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Podium eSports. Let's go back. Green Flag Racing. Nick Sanchez got a good launch. Parker Kligerman got a better launch. He's just going to send it off, and just about is going to get into the 96. And there's a big moment from Stephen Wilson, who sent it right off into 1 and 2 and cleaned out Gary Sexton, who got smashed into by about 2 or 3 different trucks to bring out the yellow once again. But it was a very bold, aggressive move from Stephen Wilson, who just went full send into the corner and could not stop his truck in time.
That's a failed attempt of a slide job for the driver of Stephen Wilson to try to get around Gary Sexton. I tell you what, another driver who tried to do a full send was Parker Kligerman to get around Nick Sanchez, but could not make it work. So under caution, and looking at the lap counter, we are going to be less than 10 laps to go. In fact, closing in on 5 laps to go once we go back green flag.
The trouble here for Stephen Wilson in particular is that Clearman, yes, definitely sent it off into 1 on that restart, but managed to keep it off the 96, if ever so slightly. Wilson, however, was not near as successful and just came in and cleaned out poor Gary Sexton, who really didn't have anywhere to go. Same thing I think you could say about Josh Balicki and Ford Martin, who were just trapped up there and could not avoid the spinning 13 truck.
Give a look on board with Kyle Busch as he works his way to the corner there. You'll see Stefan coming to the inside, and there you'll see the contact. Boom! Right there into the Armco barrier for Kyle Busch, but he's still able to continue on, and in fact, gains a couple of spots, moves into the top 5 here tonight.
KB up at the top 5, of course, already qualified for the Monday Night Racing playoffs to begin next year, and also going to be part of the All-Star race, which you'll see in early February, featuring the super late models at Bristol Motor Speedway. So, classic combo there, one that you can find at the U.S. Short Track Nationals, which usually you'll find in April, or May rather, and should be back to their normal scheduled time of the year in 2021. Lights are off on the pace truck. Trucks on the back straightaway. We go to lap 44 as we close in on the final handful of laps in tonight's race. It's Nick Sanchez and Preston Pardish, first and second on the grid as we go back green.
Trying to get a good jump on the field. Right now, green flag is back out once again, and Parker Kligerman to the inside. Almost going to be 3 wide for the race lead as we see Nick Sanchez to the top. Pardis tries to go through the middle as contact is made. Who will take out the race lead off of turn 2? All 3 of our race leaders get together and still continue on. 4 wide for 3rd position.
How about Preston Pardis, who drove straight through the middle of that to try and take it over? One truck goes way up in the air. It was TJ Majors as Nick Sanchez has engine damage, and the yellow flag is out again. And I think Majors might genuinely be the first member of the Podium eSports Space Administration. He got some air off the nose of the 96.
He got a bunch of air through that corner right there as he actually goes over the fence and has to end up on pit road as we take a look at that replay.
Wild stuff. They were all over the place, and Majors again just trying to pull the slides out, did not recognize the 96 was there, and all of a sudden out into the air and away goes TJ Majors, who eventually lands back on pit road. But big trouble there for the 22 truck, whose chance to win this race is largely gone, as is Nick Sanchez's, I would think, with all the damage he's got on his truck.
He certainly is. Nick Sanchez, one of the fastest trucks here all night tonight, but unfortunately, with that damage he received between him and the contact, look at that right there, 4 wide for position as they worked their way, and then there's the contact, and there goes TJ Majors.
The shame about all of this is that Preston Pardis had arguably the move of the night, going through the middle to get around both Parker Kligerman and Nick Sanchez, at least for a split second before everything broke out a little bit further back. But it was the gutsiest move I've seen, at least at the front of this field, all night long for the 90 truck. And he's still got a shot to win this. He'll restart second with a handful of laps to go.
James, I think it's safe to say we're going to probably see some more gutsier move here as the laps continue to wind down here, as we're going to go with about 3 laps to go. But the fast pasta, Anthony Alfredo, he's going to be starting in 3rd position as Kyle Busch's engine just expired by the looks of it. But he's going to still see if he can just get that truck around the circuit here as we are about 2 laps to go when they take the green flag.
KB with engine damage that should knock him out of contention for the race win, and we'll see where he goes on this restart. It's Kligerman and Pardis, though, who will lead us to green. 3 laps to go in this dirt derby for Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring. Off goes Kligerman. Good restart for the 77 as Pardis goes top, and Anthony Alfredo now down to the inside.
Anthony Alfredo tries to stay right on the back bumper of Parker Kligerman through turns 1 and 2. Down the back straightaway, Pardis drops back to 3rd. Anthony Alfredo right to the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to try and see if he can pull the slide job on Parker Kligerman off of turn number 4. Can't quite make it work. Kligerman still your race leader.
Kligerman there, but Alfredo certainly has a shot to pull it off if he can drive it in deep one of these next few corners. He's on the inside. Kligerman rides the cushion, lapping maybe a half to go down the backstretch, and here comes Gabe Wood from the back, nearly to 4th.
As the caution comes out once again, and it's mayhem off of turn number 4. A lot of cars involved in this incident. Looks like DJ Cummings, Connor Daly, Covey Moore. Bunch of drivers involved as we will now have an attempt of a green-white checkered.
Take a look at the replay and see what happened. Connor Daly comes down and I think he was trying to apex the corner and switch his lineup to get to the bottom, and did not realize that both Devin Henry and Chad Reed were right there. Got clipped by Reed and then T-boned by DJ Cummings, who really could not have done anything. And with heavy engine damage on the 10 truck, that's probably the end of the night for Cummings, who again was part of the championship for last season and one of the strongest drivers in season 1. Looks like engine damage also to Kobe Moore, the 28 as well.
Tough break for those drivers indeed, who are trying to get their way up through the field as their night will come to a close. Kobe Moore still going to try and get back out on the racetrack to see if he can continue on his way, but with that engine damage, it's going to make it difficult. But I think it's safe to say we are about to go back green flag racing here in the next lap.
Maybe a little bit more line still on the pace truck, but more importantly, green-white checker. First attempt will come this time by. We are past the scheduled distance of this race, and we would be remiss. We mentioned him right before the yellow flag, but Gabe Wood, who had to come through the LCQ, he started in 23rd and is up to 4th. And Will Rogers, who we've not talked about much since those qualifying races, even more impressive run. He's come from 27th to 5th in this feature race. Impressive runs for Wood and Rogers in this Dirt Derby feature.
Certainly is. Let's see who can come out on top here. As we can see, will it be Rogers? Will it be Wood? Can Parker Kligerman go 2 for 2 in the trucks? Can Anthony Alfredo be able to pull the slide job, or Preston Partis pull another impossible move here, as we are about to find out on this first attempt of green, white, checkered?
If we make it to the white, we're racing back to the flag. If we get a yellow before the white, we'll try it again. Kligerman takes some. Maybe not quite as good of a restart as he would have liked, but good enough to get him out front. Ahead of Preston Partis and Anthony Alfredo. As Alfredo goes to ride the cushion, Partis down low. Will Rogers to the inside, trying to take away a spot from the 33 as they come down the backstretch.
3 wide for second as they dive into turns 3 and 4. Kligerman to the top side of the racetrack. We see Anthony Alfredo getting by for second. Here comes Gabe Wood on the top side for third.
Everybody riding the cushion as the white flag comes out, as Partis will slide in behind everyone. Alfredo trying to give chase to Parker Kligerman, and everybody will have one more shot over in 3 and 4.
Off of turn number 2, down the back straightaway, through turns 3. Here comes Anthony Alfredo to the inside of Parker Kligerman.
He tried to put the slide job. Alfredo just about got there, but Kligerman just ran it off the fence like you talked about earlier, and it is Parker Kligerman who gets it done and wins for the second time in the trucks. He wins the Dirt Derby, round number 6 of season 2 of Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring, to Kligerman of Kligerman eSports.
Great job for Parker Kligerman, one of the strongest trucks all night, and is able to show that here, capping it off with the second win of the season. And I believe, if I'm looking at everything correctly, he's the only driver to win his second race this season so far.
First driver to go to 2 races, and oh, by the way, triple crown tonight for Parker Kligerman. Won his heat race, qualified on, or started second, and fastest lap, I suppose. The outright pole after initial qualifying is the only thing that Kligerman did not get in this evening's action.
Talk about a great performance for Parker Kligerman. Can he continue that streak the next time he comes back out here to run? We will soon find out, but a dominating performance from the number 77 Valvoline Toyota.
We'll take a moment to go side by side as Kligerman burns it down over in turn 2, and then we'll come back with your full field rundown and interviews of the top 3. Sports coverage, the Dirt Derby for Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring, live from the virtual Knoxville Raceway on Podium eSports.
For years, people had to get professional tools off of a truck.
That's me.
But we know that tool trucks only come around maybe once a week.
You want to go check out what's in the van?
Now Dave knows that his NAPA Auto Parts store delivers parts multiple times a day to his shop, and they carry the professional line of Carlyle tools. Carlyle offers quality tools with a lifetime warranty on its hand tools and a significant savings over mobile tool trucks. And you can forget about the weekly payments and expensive finance charges.
Just pay me, every week for the rest of your life.
Carlyle Tools, as close as your local NAPA Auto Parts store.
Welcome back to the post-race show here on Podium eSports. The Dirt Derby for Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring, has wrapped up, and it is time to bring you your full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished. Parker Kligerman becomes the first multiple-time winner in Season 2 of Monday Night Racing. He gets the job done ahead of Anthony Alfredo, who takes another podium finish. Gabe Wood, with his best run of the year by a landslide, finishes in 3rd. You'll hear from those 3 momentarily. Preston Partis finishes tonight a 4th spot. 5th went to Will Rogers in the 65, who started 27th. No driver gained more spots tonight than Will. Garrett Smithley with another strong run. He comes home 6th. 7th went to the 13 of Gary Sexton. Nick DeGroot finished in the 8th spot. 9th went to Ford Martin, and Kyle McFadden completed the top 10.
Joshua Balicki will come home in 11th, followed by Max Cannon in 12th position. Ron Capps comes home in 13th position, followed by Devin Henry in 14th. Chad Reed will come home in the 15th position, followed by Steven Ellis in 16th. DJ Cummings will come home in 17th, followed by Matt Stallknecht. Not a good run for him tonight in the point standings. We'll have to see if he's able to recover at the next round. He'll come home 18th. Roger Diebold will come home 19th. Connor Daly rounds out your top 20.
21st tonight was Josh Slate. Brandon Brown finished in 22nd. He was the last truck on the lead lap. 23rd was Kobe Moore. Kyle Busch 24th. 25th to TJ Majors. Or 25th rather to Nick Sanchez. 26th to TJ Majors. And Stephen Wilson completed the 27 truck feature race. As we turn our attention now to tonight's race winner, Parker Kligerman. And Parker, trucks on dirt, obviously very different than trucks on pavement, but for those who haven't had the chance to experience these trucks on dirt and iRacing, could you describe how they drive different?
Well, I'm probably not the best to ask because I think that's like the only, I can count on one hand how many times I've done that. So that was my first race in Knoxville. That was a lot of fun. You slide so much and you have to be so methodical with the pedal. And then you got to watch the track as it changes. So I was really worried, me not knowing dirt or what we're doing here, that the bottom was going to be dominant the whole time. And then when the top came in, you're just ripping the top. It's so much fun.
How tricky was it to manage that? Because we saw you on the bottom at the beginning of this race, and the groove really did shift dramatically. About maybe 20-ish laps in, everybody was already up on the top side. So how difficult was that to manage, especially from the front of the field as you were most of the night?
Yeah, I think that's dirt racing. You got to be, versatile. And I had done both in practice. And even though the top wasn't fast in practice, I just kind of ran it on purpose, trying to figure it out. And then sure enough, when it shifted up there, I knew like, oh, okay, I can move up and I know what to do. And it worked out. But it's not easy. I mean, you got to do a completely different driving style on the bottom of the top. And, but somehow they create similar lap times. So I just thought that was the most fun in the middle of the race. I was racing up there with, I think it was Nick Sanchez and Preston Pardue, and that was a lot of fun.
That last lap there, we saw Alfredo come in for the slide job like you figured he would. And Taylor Burris mentioned early on in this race that you want to run the fence, but you don't necessarily want to smash the fence. And notice that you just clipped it a little bit in turn 4. Was that a bit of a defensive ploy, or was that just you giving it everything you had?
I hit the fence a couple times, not on purpose. It actually benefited me once where I bounced the rear off it, but I mean, that's kind of dirt racing in a truck. But yeah, I was not trying to. And then I had that big slide job on Preston and Sanchez, to take the lead, and it got a little pear-shaped off too, but I don't know if it was my fault or what it was, but it felt like we were all just sort of going for it. And that's kind of the risk you take when you throw a slider like that.
You're also the first multiple-time winner, and I guess unofficially this counts as the first win for Kligerman Sport, perhaps?
Oh, yes, it is actually. Good point. Yeah, so this is win number 1. We get one just before the end of 2020, just after we announced Kligerman Sport. So that's thanks for bringing it up. That's really cool. Valvoline on board with us as usual. Looking forward to next year. I think there's gonna be some big things in the esports world, and hopefully us, Kligerman Sport, can be a part of all that. But yeah, I wasn't sure I was gonna race tonight, and then found some time, and thanks to Ford Martin and everyone who puts this league on, you guys who broadcast it do an excellent job on Podium, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great group that race in this league. It gets a lot of attention, and I feel like it's a fun thing to be able to just sort of show up on a Monday night and know that you can enter a race of this quality and caliber and have fun doing it. So this has been very cool. Thanks for everything this year.
Those watching at home, file that away for the memory banks that the first victory for Kligerman Sport came in the trucks at Knoxville in Monday Night Racing with Parker Kligerman behind the wheel. Parker, congratulations and thanks for the time.
Thank you guys. Great job all year. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Looking forward to a lot more great racing like this in 21.
It's Parker Kligerman who finishes P1 this evening. P2 went to Anthony Alfredo, who's back in this second spot again, where I think he'll take it, but he definitely wants a little bit more. We'll see how he's feeling when he chats with Taylor Burris.
Here with the fast pass to Anthony Alfredo. Anthony, you came so close. Try to pull a final slide job attempt through the corners. How was your race, and how do you feel after that hard charge towards the end?
I don't even know where to begin. I finished second more times than I can remember now, but I can't complain too much about that because that's better than wrecking however many times I finished second. So I think so far in the league, I missed Talladega was the first race, and since then it's been a second, third, second, Then we got wrecked last week on the last lap, running top 3 all night, led some laps again, and then came into the night and ended up second again. So I feel like the consistency's there, which is great for the points, but I definitely want to win a race, not to mention that would lock us into the playoffs and make that even easier. But bottom line, I just want to thank everyone from Monday Night Racing, you guys up in the booth, for putting on a great show for the fans, because I'm excited to watch this one back. That was arguably the most fun race of the year, at least from behind the wheel, and I'm sure it was exciting to watch. We got muscled around there a little bit and got pushed out of the top 5, but we worked our way back up there and took advantage of those guys stacking on the top on one of those restarts, and I just catfished around the bottom and gained a whole bunch of spots, and we were in position to win again. I just couldn't quite get close enough. I think I needed one more lap to run the top, get closer to Parker, and then pull off the slide job, but I wasn't close enough to make it work. But I had to give it a shot just for the fans. I didn't want to disappoint them by riding behind them there.
Now, my next question is, when we come to here at Knoxville in the NASCAR Truck Series next year in 2021, do you have a feeling of this is how the racing might typically be that we should be possibly seeing, or it's still a more yet to be determined type deal?
I think it's definitely a great representation. I was excited about this race tonight, not only just because I love this league and I love racing on iRacing, but because it was going to be a sort of a sneak peek for what we're going to see in real life. And I tweeted that out before the race for everyone to tune in, because I did think this was going to be a pretty accurate representation, as iRacing usually is. So I'm definitely pumped to watch it in real life and maybe even do some more of this on the sim, because that was such a blast. And to be back behind the wheel, my whitetail smokeless machine, chasing a win for those guys and everyone who supports me, was a pleasure.
All right. Well, Anthony, before we let you go, is there anybody else you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, just all my partners, and of course Whitetail Smokeless for sponsoring me and myself in this series specifically. Apologize to all my Twitch viewers because I wasn't able to stream this one again since I'm racing on a horrible internet connection. I'm glad that wasn't an issue tonight, but shout out to SimSeats as well for hooking me up with a rig while home for the holidays and to surprise my dad with as the world's greatest Christmas gift. So Santa came early with this one. I'm glad I was able to test it out for him tonight.
All right, that is Anthony Alfredo coming home in P2. And James, I believe you caught up with probably the driver of the day, Mr. Gabe Wood.
No doubt about it. Gabe Wood put together a show in this race, and I think to really get a feel for the story of what this night became for you, Gabe, take us back to the heat races when everything went sideways, you ended up in trouble, you get buried in the back, you go to the LCQ. What's your mindset knowing that you had the speed to qualify and directly to the feature just out of the heats, but it just didn't quite work out for you at that point?
Yeah. The heat race, I was feeling really good, started second, qualified fourth, and I get to the bottom and I'm just losing time, and then I hit the apron and that lost my momentum. And then the next corner, Devin Henry, he didn't really have anywhere to go, and he got into me and it spun me out, and caution didn't come out. So I was just fuming. And we get into the LCQ, and I started like 8th or something. And Gary Sexton comes on the radio. He's like, "Gabe, you're faster than these guys. All you got to do is finish 5th." And I'm like, "No, I'm winning this. I'm going to the front. I have to prove that I had at least a little bit of speed."
How wild was that? Just the general drive to the front, knowing how crazy dirt racing can be. It's particularly impressive to see it on any form of racing surface, but on the dirt here at Knoxville in particular, I feel like has to be about as bonkers as it can get.
It was freaking insane. Me and Will Rogers started, in the same kind of spot. We both made it through the LCQ, and we both started on the bottom, and just started picking off the guys that we knew he could beat, and Will ended up shoving it like 5 wide, and he was able to get through on the bottom. And so I started following him, and we just started picking guys off, and we got around, I think Will ended up spinning out, but we got up to about the top 15, and I'm like, all right, these guys are starting to get good. So it was really just capitalizing on mistakes. I got up to about 12th, and Alfredo and Kyle McFadden and I think Balicki got together, and they ended up sandwiching coming off of 2, and I just dove up to the bottom and picked up 4 spots and slid up into Alfredo. The door banged him, but we ended up, I apologized to him afterward, and he said it was fine. It was like, I didn't even know you were there. So, and that got me up into 9th, and just having to capitalize every restart. Guys ended up making mistakes and just picked up a few at a time, and that last restarted fourth, and I just rode the top and tried to make it work. And I think Preston, he ended up getting shoved to the bottom, so it worked out for me.
Your best finish of the season in the final race for Monday Night Racing of 2020. Pretty good way to cap off the calendar year, I would think. It gives you some momentum when we go truck racing of a different kind at Watkins Glen in 2 weeks, no?
Yeah, and honestly, I wish this kind of finish could have come earlier. I've had a little bit of speed here and there. Like, I was pretty decent at Twin Ring Mokotegi, but I just kept getting caught up in accidents, and some of them I caused my own. Had some bad luck, but this is definitely a good way to end 2020, and I'm looking forward to it. We were bouncing back and forth about starting a league with road courses and the off-road trucks. I think last year, and we did a lot of practice races with them, so I feel actually really confident. I'm a decent road racer, so and I say that considering that, you know, Preston Portis, Will Rogers, and a couple of IndyCar guys are in here, but I think I might be able to walk out of there with a top 10, just keep some momentum going. But at this point, I kind of really just got to win to make the chase. I'm so far behind in points.
They may have the road course experience, but you have the truck experience.
Yeah.
We'll see how it evens out in 2 weeks' time. But congratulations on the podium finish, Gabe, and we look forward to seeing you at Watkins Glen in the new year.
Thanks, James.
Gabe Wood comes home in the third spot. That concludes our conversations with the podium finishers and almost rounds out our coverage of Monday Night Racing for 2020. But if this is the way we're going to close out the calendar year, Taylor Burris, pretty good way to do it.
It certainly is. I mean, we saw a lot of exciting racing throughout the field, not just up towards the front of the field, but also towards the back half of the field. This is a great representation, as Anthony Alfredo said, of what we could expect come 2021 when the trucks come here to the actual Knoxville Speedway here, and it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what can happen in 2021. Of course, congrats to Parker Kligerman as he collects his first ever Kligerman eSports victory here tonight, and I'm pretty sure he's looking forward to seeing what 2021 will bring for him as he continues in his career as a car owner in the eSports world.
It would be Kligerman Sport, actually. We have to adjust it. It's a bit of a change from the Burton Kligerman eSports name, but it makes it very clear, I think, that Parker's got his mind on something bigger than just eSports. And the question that we'll have to wait to see the answer to is what? But he'll take this as a way to lock himself down further into the playoffs. Bonus points for the playoffs coming to Parker as well. He's the first multiple-time winner in Season 2 of Monday Night Racing. And this is a preview of what we can expect July 9th, 2021, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1 and the Motor Racing Network. You can tune in to watch the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series at Knoxville Raceway for the very first time. I have no doubt, after seeing what happened tonight, that we are going to be in for plenty of entertainment. This is our last Monday Night Racing broadcast of 2020. We are off next Monday night. However, still a few more races to pay attention to before we close out 2020 proper in the world of iRacing and Podium eSports. And our coverage of action continues tomorrow night. We will officially start the broadcast at 9 p.m. Eastern with the finale of the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series from Homestead Miami Speedway. We'll find out which 21 drivers will enter into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And there are some names that are on the bubble that are going to have to fight and fight hard for their spot. Matt Busa, Brandon Cattell, Derek Justice, Brian Schoenberg, Malik Ray, Ryan Doucette, Dylan Duval, Alan Bose, Santiago Tierres, Chris Overland, all within either 10 points to the good or the bad of the cut line. All of them are going to have the work cut out for them tomorrow night at 9 p.m. However, tune in at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Podium Esports for a special pre-race show with information about the 2021 Podium 500, the biggest super speedway event in all of iRacing. Over $1,000 in a sim rig have gone to the winner the last 2 years. Over 175 drivers have competed over the course of the football championship game weekend that usually tends to be a little super, wink wink, for a shot at history and a place in the books as a Podium 500 champion. We have news on that front to tell you tomorrow night at 8:45, and you will want to tune in early to make sure that you find out everything about what you can expect when we get to February, the first weekend of February next year. Then, next Monday night, it's the penultimate round of the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge from Dover International Speedway. You can tune in to twitch.tv/Podium eSports at 7:30 p.m. Eastern to find coverage of that event. We'll find out which drivers make their way into the one-off playoff at Homestead, Miami, and which drivers will be competing for the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge title. And then we are back on air with Monday Night Racing 2 weeks from tonight. It is January 4th, 2021, 9 p.m. on the Podium Esports Facebook page, Podium Esports YouTube, Podium Esports Twitter, twitch.tv/Podium2, the Pro 2 Talks at Watkins Glen. For those who got the chance to witness the lower half dash earlier in this year, that's where that combo came from, and it was an incredibly entertaining race. Blake McCandless, one of our commentators at Podium Esports, had the chance to be on the call for that one, and he said, watch out, those are going to be oh so fun to watch because they just slide everywhere. You have to lean into the suspension and get them to crouch and sort of preload the springs to get any sort of traction on corner exit, and that in and of itself is going to create a very interesting dynamic, Taylor Burris, that I think we're going to enjoy a lot 2 weeks from tonight.
The only thing we're missing is the ramps, otherwise to make it more like the Stadium Super Trucks here at Watkins Glen in a couple of weeks' time. But it's still going to be an exciting race. We're going to see drivers utilizing every inch of the racetrack when competing at Watkins Glen with the Pro 2 trucks. So it's going to be exciting. A lot more beat and banging than probably what we see even tonight here at Knoxville. So stay tuned on January 4th.
A lot more sliding, I think, as well, and a lot more weaving and bobbling. So you take a look at the full schedule. We are now down Knoxville and out the 2020 portion of the calendar, but still, we've got 4 more races left to set up the playoffs for Monday Night Racing Season 2. So if you're outside of the cutoff line, it is time to get moving. We will work our way towards the playoffs throughout January 2021, and you'll be able to see all the action here on Podium Esports. It's time to close out on Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring, coverage from this Dirt Derby at Knoxville Raceway. And a big thank you to Tufco Flooring for their support of Monday Night Racing. Likewise, to Ford Martin, Paul Sutton, Josh Mendoza, and the team at Monday Night Racing for all that they do to organize the series. For our team at Podium Esports, Cisco Garamuza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, our producer this evening, Ryan Bauer, and for my colleague in the booth, Taylor Burris, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching Podium's broadcast of Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring. We wish everyone a happy holiday season and a happy new year, and we'll be back with more Monday Night Racing on January 4th, 2021, Pro 2 trucks from Watkins Glen International.